Greetings, mortals, and welcome back to Rock Talks Politics. So today I'm going to talk a little about right and wrong answers. Um, in politics, usually people devolve into tribalism, and you have the people on the left who want more regulation, who want more money going to like socialistic enterprise, who want all the things that you associate with the left. And then you have the people on the right who want less regulation, who want less money going to poor people, who want less this, less that, whatever, right? They want less government versus more government. And both positions are fundamentally wrong. There is every piece of legislation that you make has a function, and most of the time it can be relatively easily gleaned whether it's good or bad legislation. Now, things are more complicated on a national level, but predominantly the reason that politics is so complicated and difficult to deal with is not because the fundamental issues at hand are difficult, but because the way that politics works is stupid, inefficient, and incredibly corrupt. So if I can't pass a common sense legislation that just increases government revenue without increasing anybody's costs, right? So basically, I cutting out, an inefficiency in the way that we are doing a specific thing, which basically just saves the government money. If I can't pass that unless I can get favors from another politician who wants to pass some bill that benefits his constituents at the expense of the country, then all of a sudden my common sense legislation becomes problematic. And that's one of the big issues that we have in our democracy is that in order to get anything done, you need to buy favors from people with legislation that they want done. And because we don't actually get politicians in office based off of competence or desire to do the job correctly, we put them in office based off of political ideology and things of that nature. It becomes very difficult to get anything done that's just common sense, right? Like, for instance, passing a budget before you bankrupt the country by defaulting on your debts. As an example, that's common sense legislation that absolutely has to be done. And you can argue about it, but there's a limit to how long you can argue about it before you start causing irrevocable harm to the country. And so you have to pass the legislation eventually. There's no way around it. And yet somehow our politicians allowed the country to basically default on their loans for 2 weeks and didn't bother and not paying government employees and shutting down government services and doing all of this stuff that is just frankly insane because they didn't want to do their jobs. So, and then we reelected them into office because all those same people are still in office. So, what the hell, man? Why'd we allow that to happen? Well, the key is that we don't really reward competence in our governments. And one of the things that I think we need to do moving forward is we need to start rewarding competent governance. We need to start actually putting people into office who are not going to do something for me or for you. They're going to do something for the entirety of the people they represent. And that means that when my constituency votes for someone to go into office, the expectation should not be that that person is going to represent their constituency. It should be that that person is going to represent everyone in the region. And they have particular knowledge of their constituency. And they can use that knowledge of their own constituency to inform the other legislators as to what the problems are, what are the concerns, things that need to be addressed. But if the constituents are greedy and force the politician to look after their interests at the expense of everyone else, then what happens is you end up with a system where everyone's trading favors and it's just extremely corrupt, right? Everyone trading favors for their own constituencies at the expense of coherently functioning whole is corruption. And it doesn't involve any third party governments, it doesn't involve any corporations or anything like that. It's just natural, innate corruption by greedy constituencies. So we need to start getting people into office who are going to be good at the job and who are going to be making the decisions that are necessary to help everybody. And most importantly, who are going to be doing things that are not controversial. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done that isn't controversial to anyone outside of the political sphere, right? Fixing gerrymandering is not controversial to anyone outside of the political sphere. And it's just something that needs to get done. We just need to update our system. And the fact of the matter is that any system that we would go to has downsides and upsides to it. But the thing is that none of the downsides that the objectively superior systems have are worse than what we have right now. Our current system is just completely broken. And there's no systems that we have access to that we would want to change to that have anything below where we're currently sitting. So we should just pick one, fucking do it randomly, who cares? Just pick one of them, swap to that, and then as we move forward, we can see how that goes for us. But it's going to fundamentally work better than what we have right now, and nobody's doing it. And we've known for decades that we need to fix these things, and nobody's bothered to do it. So if we get people into office who are actually willing to work on these things, that will help a lot because it means that we'll have less safe districts and more ability to democratically elect people across the entire country. But so that's an important thing. But we also just need people who are going to say, I'm not going to be standing on the left. I'm not going to be standing on the right. I'm not even standing in the center. I'm just saying, okay, what is this bill? I'm actually going to read this bill. I'm going to see what's in it, and I'm going to make my decision based off of this bill and whether I think this bill will help or hinder the country. And if you're stupid enough that you think that, oh, this bill increases taxes, so it's bad for the country, so I'm going to throw it away, or this bill lowers taxes on rich people, so it's stupid, so I'm going to throw it away, or anything of that nature. If you are an ideologue, you are not qualified for political office because you're too fucking dumb to read things and understand the consequences of what you're reading. Ideologues need to be kicked out. We need to get rid of these people. The people who think that no taxes ever is a good political philosophy, the people who think that we can just throw money, like just throw good money after bad at things that we don't really have any evidence are actually being utilized effectively. We need to be starting to use our money more effectively and more sensibly. And we need to have common sense, and not common sense. Sense is not terribly common. But we need to have people who are highly qualified, capable of looking at things, and reward them for doing so. Because if you look at the kinds of shit that you see on the media and you see the kinds of things people are talking about the stupidest shit. Nobody talks about anything that actually has any relevance, right? People talk about this person said this thing. Nobody's talking about this is a thing that this person did. It's like, oh, what do people say about this thing someone did? I don't give a shit. I only care about what they actually did. I don't care what people say. Don't talk to me about what people say. That's not news. What's news is what people have actually done. So what have people done today? That's news. Tell me what legislation is passed. Tell me what the consequences of that legislation are. And we need to have experts who are actually available to do that. And unfortunately, our news networks are not doing it. So we need, I think, for people to start getting together, and this is something that you can do in your local community, is, find a group of people, get together, and start talking about local legislation and talk about the economic consequences of the local legislation. Talk about, building, this stuff that people are building. Talk about, does it make sense to do this, right? Talk about the actual realistic stuff. And then on, a state level, like look at your state representatives, see what they're doing, and importantly, talk about it. We have the internet now, right? You have me rambling on a 10-minute video so far. It's going to be longer about, you know, my thoughts on this kind of stuff. And it's so important for people to talk and for people to understand what it is that the actual issues that are going on. And I feel like with political discourse, sensible people don't talk enough. People who actually have some degree of competence tend to avoid talking about politics because the political discussions are always so stupid. If you watch the presidential debates, nobody said anything of any actual merit. Nobody was actually talking numbers in any, someone might use a very simplistic figure, right? But I mean, giving a figure is not using numbers. That's not how math works. Like, nobody talks about things of real importance to the country, and they don't go into the details that are necessary because they talk a big game, but they're just talking ideology, and ideology is not interesting. Ideology is stupid. We don't need ideology. We need experts who are going to do their fucking job. If I hire an electrician, okay, I don't give a shit about them going on a monologue about fucking voltage, like which voltage is the right voltage for a country to use. I'm sure, fine, have those opinions and, try and fight for them at the appropriate time. But right now, I just need you to optimally set up my fucking apartment. And if you set up my apartment optimally for something that doesn't exist right now by putting in the optimal shit for a different country's voltage patterns, then what the fuck, dude? You just completely destroyed my apartment. I can't run anything, right? So that's important, is that's basically what our government does, is that it comes in and uses the wrong tools to do the wrong shit all the time because people are using ideological arguments, instead of saying, oh, well, this bill here increases government revenue by 0.0003% and increases throughput on this particular area by 12%. And the area is a very small area, right? So this is just something that is common sense legislation that if we do this, we get rewards and nothing goes wrong. Everything about this is good for the country, so we should do it. And that kind of legislation is just not given enough attention, and it's not rewarded. And that should be the most rewarding type of legislation, is the win-win legislation where everybody's happy. I mean, everyone's happy except for certain special interests, because the problem is that there's always some special interest. There's some guy somewhere who loses his government contract and is pissed off about it. But the government runs better and everyone else is better off. And it's very important that we reward that behavior. So get together with people in your area. Look at the way that the government is actually operating. Look at the kinds of things that your town councils are doing, that your city councils, whatever, your state legislators. Pay attention. Watch what they're doing. Read the legislation, and you don't have to do it alone. Get together in groups. Read the legislation, discuss the legislation, and hopefully, a decent portion of you are experts in something. And so focus on your area of expertise and get together with people who have different areas of expertise and talk to them about the things that they're experts at and see what works and what doesn't. And leave the ideology to fucking priests. They're all about ideology, but politics should not be about ideology. Politics should be about getting the smartest people in the country together to do the thing that's best for everyone. So thank you everyone for watching. I hope this has been at least thought-provoking to an extent, and I'll see you guys again next time.